All right, before we get into this episode, I want you to go to the Kronos Forge on Skool. It's a community that I built. It's built around how I live, train, how I build businesses, how I survive terrible outcomes and good outcomes. The kind of people I think will be in this community you should actually want to be around. They're going to help you level up in life. Too many men are trying to do all this stuff alone. There's no accountability. You got no feedback. And if you do, it's some sort of loop, everybody commiserating together. That's exactly why I built the Kronos Forge on Skool. Inside, we're going to talk about business, health, mindset, discipline, what it means to be a man, relationships, responsibility, the reality of trying to build a successful life without destroying yourself in the process. It's free to join. It's on Skool. The link is in the show notes. Go check it out.
Entrepreneurs are very independent people. They're bootstrapped. They do their own thing. One of our values is be a doer. And it's that grit, that just grabbing life by the horns. And no matter what it takes, you're going to win. It's that attitude that when I see that, like, I know there's going to be success there.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming back again to another episode of the Kronos Group podcast. Today we got Dean Mathews. Let me tell you that he is the founder and CEO of On the Clock, which is a company that he started with a very simple problem. And any business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to understand what his problem is. And that is what his problem he's helping trying to fix. Tracking employee time accurately without all of the headaches, mistakes, and all of the payroll issues. And I'll say out front, as somebody who has had 10,000 employees over the course of the last 25, 30 years, I have spent more time on this problem almost specifically than almost any other problem, because this problem has tentacles that drive itself out into the rest of your business. So what started as solving a real world operational problems grown into a platform now used by more than 18,000 companies, over 160,000 people around the world. So looking forward to getting into Dean's story, because unlike so many stories, particularly of late, we've had a lot of Silicon Valley startup types and those sorts of things. And that's great. And that's an interesting part of business. But there's this whole other part of the world is made up of most of us 3.5 million entrepreneurs that have employees that are out here working, pulled it up by the bootstrap type of guys. And that's what I think I like about Dean and Dean's story, at least from the outside looking in. We're about to find out. Dean, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate being here. I appreciate the invite. Look forward to chatting.
Let's go right into a little bit of background so we know who you are. Give us the listeners love where you grew up and that sort of thing, but then kind of dovetail it into how'd you get where you are now relative to the business side?
Yeah, I'll give you the last 22 years now, actually, in a nutshell. So with On the Clock, well, let me back up even before that. Before On the Clock, I was always been entrepreneurial, started several businesses. One of the big things I did before On the Clock was I was a consultant. So I went into different businesses, dozens of them. I wrote custom software for them, whatever they needed, MRP systems, inventory control, accounting. In a former life, I was a software developer. So I'd go and build all these systems for them. But along the way, I always wanted to really just have my own solutions. So built probably about 4, 5, 6 of them. All turned out pretty well, but the one that really stood out was On the Clock. So that one started, it was late 2020 or 2003. I was just sitting there reading through these accounting and business forums. You remember those? They're actually still around.
Yeah.
And I just recognized this pattern of all these business owners and accountants and CPA types looking for online time tracking for their employees that was easy and reliable. That was the 2 words they were looking for. So I decided to build it for them. So literally within the next couple of days, I started by about May of early 2004, had On the Clock up and running. And at that point, it was really just me running it. It was very simple, clock in, clock out for time cards. And really for quite a few years, it was really just a passion project of mine. Still tended to it, did several other companies in consulting. But over the years, it just really started to grow to a point to where I really couldn't ignore it anymore. About 10 years ago now, really decided that, okay, I want to grow this, right? It's time to actually move from just a passion project to an actual business, and started bringing on the team. Some of the team we have now are still there. Samantha is started 10 years ago and she's still there now, still with us now, and started building teams. So I moved really from kind of that almost an individual contributor state to really the leader state. So fast forward to now, now we're sitting at 27 people. We have, right around those 18,000 customers, and we have a goal of serving 1 million users in a month. So that's a little ways off, but it's still coming along. And throughout the years, we've obviously made huge product upgrades. We've hired top talent for all the departments that a company like ours needs. And we're just continuing to build the product way beyond time tracking now. We're into scheduling, employee scheduling. We're into payroll. We're building on right now what we're calling HR Lite. These are all the standard HR or people tools, I like to call them, that any small business would need to help run and lead their teams. So it's been a super exciting trip so far. And, now going forward into this AI world, we're waist deep into that. And we're just so excited just to move forward and just see what else is on the horizon for us.
The entrepreneur, let's back up a little bit to what you said right there at the beginning. The entrepreneur bug, you said you always had it. You started out as a consultant. Where does that come from, do you think? And I asked the question because it's interesting. The perspective that I think society at large has about entrepreneurs is largely crafted by social media. And so there is this dramatization, if you will, or this romanticization of entrepreneurship that's just not based on any kind of reality. And I say that almost anybody can be an entrepreneur, right? Because you can sign up and you can start to do it. Whether or not you can do it successfully, whether or not you have what it takes, that's a much, much more rare person that's able to do that. And most people have no idea what they're getting into. I certainly didn't when I started as an entrepreneur, but I just knew for myself my answer to my own question, which is not what I'm supposed to do in podcasting, but I'm going to do it anyway. My answer to my own question is I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I didn't like working for people. And I thought, I'll go try this. But I had no concept of what it is. So I didn't have some great calling to entrepreneurship other than I was a great employee who didn't like working for other people and was willing to take a risk. And probably if I knew 10 years in if I knew that at the beginning, I probably wouldn't have done it if I had some concept of how difficult it was going to be. Was there a calling in your life to be an entrepreneur? You said you got it early on. Was it being an employee and you had a bad experience? What was it that pushed you into working for yourself?
Yeah, I'll be honest. It actually, I've actually tried to trace this back. I can't even go back to like my really early youth, single digits, even into the teen years. And I even look back, even at what my dad taught me a lot of things about grit and about being a man and about, being a doer and accomplishing things. He wasn't really in the business world. And, his aspirations for me in business was to get a good job and go work. And that was great. But, there was so I've tried to trace this back, but I really think that most times people are just literally born with it. Even though I had the push from my father to do great, he really wasn't pushing beyond just getting a really good job. So I go back to like even my mid-teens, 15, 16, I would open up lawnmower repair shops in my garage, whatever I could find to just serve people and hopefully make a buck. So I think it is inborn in a lot of people. Not to say that it can't be crafted and honed over time, but I think that entrepreneurs, the ones that I know, which I know quite a few, they just have this grit, this desire, this innate drive to go out and do something for themselves that honestly the overwhelming majority of people don't have. Like you said, anybody could be a business owner and entrepreneur for $100. You could register your business, but are you going to succeed? Are you going to put in the hours? Are you going to put in the time and the energy? As you know, this is not a 9-to-5 job. It is, we don't clock out ever.
No.
We're just talking about vacations, right?
Right.
It's always on the brain.
I think for me too, to get your thoughts on this, I've just known more entrepreneurs than I can count and have been working with them now for 25 years. And there is a independent streak largely to most of them that for me, I can link back to my early days, whereas I was not a cliquish kid. I wasn't worried about being part of the group.
Yeah.
I didn't smoke. I never drank. I never did drugs, right? I didn't do those things. I mean, I was into sports a lot, so that'll kind of keep it out of it, I guess, to some extent. But again, I got to a point at 28 years old where I got rid of all of the people I grew up with because I realized they were holding me back. And if I wanted to move forward, I had to find new friends that were smarter and more educated and who could challenge me. And so I think going back to even my high school and my junior high years, I was just fiercely independent. Now I was a poor kid from the streets. And so some of that was kind of beat into me and some of that was kind of forced onto me in that context. But again, an independence I see in entrepreneurs that I think is critical, because you got to learn early to be able to put up with a lot and realize it's not going to kill you and put your feet on the floor the next morning and get up.
As you were talking, you were making me think about probably 4 or 5 younger guys and maybe one younger lady that I've kind of known over the years. And it's like when you first meet these people, after talking to them for about 10 or 20 minutes, you just kind of know they got something.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I was very not cliquish at all. I did not have groups in school, or it just was not my thing. I just did my own thing. I kind of got along with everybody, but I didn't find my home in one group or another. So I see that trait as well. I mean, entrepreneurs are very independent people. They're bootstrapped. They do their own thing. One of the doer. So one of our values is be a doer. And it's that grit, that just grabbing life by the horns. And no matter what it takes, you're going to win. It's that attitude that when I see that, like, I know there's going to be success there.
Even when you lose, which is hard for people on the outside to understand, that even when I was knocked down the hardest and it sucked the most, I was still like, well, all right, I got to dig out of this one. Not, I might dig out of this one. It's okay, time to dig out of this one. And I think that's the embodiment of what being an entrepreneur is, to your point, is that we always think we're going to win, even when it's ugliest.
Yeah, that's 100% if you try once and fail and you stop, or you try twice and fail and you stop, or you try 5 times and stop, that is not the DNA you need.
That's right.
If you think you're going to stop after the first try, you should probably just go back and get a day job. Seriously,
right.
It's in your best interest. But if you have that grit, that never lose grit, the reality is losing and not succeeding is part of the deal. That's where you learn the most. I mean, I have failed more times than I want to admit, but that's what made me. That's where I learned the most. And that's where I learned that when you do fail and you do eventually succeed, that you can succeed. You can always pull out of these things, but you just have to have that commitment and that drive.
Yeah, I love that. I always say that from a consulting perspective, my value comes from the fortunes I have lost, not the fortunes I've made.
Yeah. 100%.
And also, to your point, I have a joke I always say, 5 times, I've tried 5 times, I've failed 5 times. An entrepreneur calls that a good start.
Yes. I like that one. I'm going to write that down.
Most people call that a failure, but we call that a good start. So you tackled, and I appreciate that opinion and your perspective on that from an entrepreneur side, because I'm really trying to push that for the young guys, but I want them to understand what reality is relative to entrepreneurship and being the boss and being the owner, because the world that they see on TikTok, where somebody sees a Lamborghini, stops and takes a picture and says they're living on the south of France and working 4 hours a week, and everybody gets some context that, oh, that's what entrepreneurship is, and then they're quickly they figure out that they've been hoodwinked, and reality is something completely different. So I always try to dig into it with entrepreneurs to give everyone a sense that it's hard. There's not, I don't know if you do. I never met somebody who I'm sure these unicorns are out there somewhere, but the reality is I've never met them.
There's a very small percentage, but you could do that maybe after 20 or 30 years, but you're not doing it when you're 25 years old. No, you're driving old cars, you're scraping by, it's just the nature of the reality of entrepreneurship. Right. Is that, you have to go through the trenches. Very few have a way around it.
I agree. Yep. So On the Clock, great idea. but I'm interested in, the one mistake that I always made in business. I was not smart enough to ever go into a business that had a good moat around it, even though I knew I should have, right? It seems like I got into the most, and I've done very well for myself, so I'm not complaining, but always hyper competitive businesses on the clock, and what you guys are providing, I can't think of a more competitive environment, particularly given the last few years and the advances with AI and technology. So from that perspective, it doesn't sound like you even thought about that, which is the way most things happen in the world today. And you're kind of drawn into it first as a hobby and then as a business. But I guess more broadly, competitively, what do you see on the horizon that's going to give you guys either an opportunity to set yourselves apart, or do you see some dark clouds?
Yeah, no, so it depends on the future you envision, right? Are you looking at dark clouds, or are you looking at something bright? That's the way I look at it. For me, you talk about moat, right? So it used to be, we'll say 4 or 5 years ago, pre-AI, or pre-AI software development, what they're doing now, where the software you built was your moat, because there was all this intellectual property, all this time, energy that you spent building, for me at least, a piece of software.
Investment.
Nowadays, that piece of software can, for the most part, be replicated in a week or two. It's not so much the software. We actually just had one of our customers that left us. We have customers come and leave all the time, of course, but this one caught our eye because the reason they left is because they used AI to create their own time tracking scheduling system for their company, and they don't have to pay us anymore. So that really starts to drive the conversation that we know that software is not our moat anymore, but there is no intellectual property there anymore, or at least value. So, but what is the moat? So, I mean, we're actually knee deep in looking into this right now, but things like system of record are really big for us right now. We are a system of record just because of the nature of our product, but continuing to build that out and continuing to bring more and more data into that system of record, that's a big one. For other companies, might be the community that you have, like the following. If you have social products, for instance, their moat is their people, their followers. So if you have a product like that, if you have proprietary data, that's another moat that you control, because you control that. The way I try to look at moats, for us, it's probably 2 or 3 things. But the best way that I could describe it to any entrepreneur is that you want to have something that it's an intellectual property or an intellectual data that you own that the outside world can't replicate, or AI can't replicate. Exactly what that is for your particular venture that you're trying to start up, you have to really figure that on your own. But you got to think about what, if you're looking at software, what can't AI replicate? Because it can replicate software day and night nowadays, and it's going to get even better over the next few years. So the moat is what you control. And if you don't have a moat, you should start to think about, okay, well, I don't have one, but what can I glean from my audience, from my customers, and create a moat out of? Is it knowledge? Is it just data on their day-to-day activities? Is it a community? It's really up to the entrepreneur to figure that out. But it is important nowadays to really think that way, because you can't be replicated, but what you built can be replicated so easily that you need to think about the things that you own and you keep inside and that nobody else has access to. And if you don't have it, build it.
Hey, everybody, quick break. I want to tell you about something I'm doing for the first time. I'm putting together the first Kronos group cohort. That's 10 business owners max. And understand, this is not a course. It's a peer level work with other operators and direct access to me on a month-to-month basis. We're going to go deep on what actually moves the needle for businesses, like systems and sales and leadership and staying sane while you're building something real: fitness, health, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. This group is for you. The people who get in on this first cohort get founder pricing, and that's the trade for going first. And it won't be open long, and it's not going to stay at this price for sure. If you've been listening to this show or me and thinking you need a room like this, you probably do. 10 spots, founder special. Check it out. The link's in the show notes.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. In fact, last night, I own a transportation company, have for 30 years, and among many things, way back in the day, I helped the team that I had hired. It was a national firm, but the software that we used to dispatch, I went from paper to software, and so got to develop everything in between. I've been now with them for 25 years, but they've sold to private equity, and the product is not nearly as good. And so just last night, I was talking with parts of my team about we may have to just build it. What they sell us for $3,000, $4,000 a month, I use 1/5 of it. Man, I use 5% of it, right? Maybe 3% of what it actually does. And I said with AI today, I probably could build out everything that I need on my own and get it to do exactly what I want to do, because I can't get them anytime I want anything done. I'm beholden to them and their timeframes. And so the value that their community, their sales side, their development side, their people side bring makes me think I need to go do something else, because I'm waiting days and weeks and months to get anything out of them that legitimately I could probably build in the time I'm waiting for them. And so I think, to add to what you said, the moat for many people in this same scenario, at some point, money is going to be the overriding factor, but service also. If these guys provided me service that I could click my fingers and they just gave me what I wanted in the time frame I can deliver it to myself, I wouldn't be having this conversation, because I got bigger fish to fry, and $3,000 a month's not enough to really worry about at this point. But I'm not getting what I want, and I have to live inside of their ecosphere. I don't want to do that. I want to live inside the one that I need, and so it makes me look. So I see where they're coming from. I mean, actually just had that conversation last night. So I think that's real. I think that you said something. They can't replicate you. They can't replicate me. Right. And so all the AI in the world can make all of the websites it wants to. It can develop all of the software it wants to. But at the end of the day, your experience is not replicable in a one-on-one or a one-on community environment. And I think that there is a big part left to be played yet in service.
100% agreed. And kind of like you made me think about a few other things. It's, as we're talking about, us, like we can't be replicated. Every single thing in the world that we've ever created starts with an idea, right, in your head. And, even like where we're at right now, we're looking to build our entire operation so streamlined, product-wise particularly, where ideas become the bottleneck, to where we can build software at light speed. We can get it out to our customers at light speed. But the bottleneck is our brains. How fast can we come up with the best absolute value-driven ideas for our customers? But then you kind of back up. Well, how do you do that? Well, that is really probably several things. I mean, relationships. You need to know people to gain access to information. Knowing your customers, like literally talking to them, meeting with them, sitting with them through their pain points. Knowing the competition that's out there. I mean, these are all basic business stuff, but kind of got to come back to basics sometimes. And then, knowing the market, what is the market, what's emerging, what's coming next. And if one as an entrepreneur can just get their head just around that and understand the core problems and come up with the ideas, that's a moat that nobody can ever come across.
Right.
No AI is ever, to my knowledge, 10 years from now, maybe it's different, but right now, it's still like, if you can come up with the best ideas, you will win. But you have to be able to execute on them, of course. You have to execute.
Right. Execution obviously is a key. And you're dealing with, I mean, again, to entrepreneurs on the outside looking in, or there's 33 million entrepreneurs in the United States, but 30 odd million of them are solopreneurs. So they have no employees. And so for you guys that are looking to grow, and these are the people I deal with a lot, the ones that, you got to go out and get employees. If you hope to scale, you got to have employees. You got to get multiple teams, right? And there's making that jump. But when you start adding employees, the complexity to your business outside of operations just goes off the charts as far as I'm concerned, as opposed to, I mean, I've had, thousands of employees. I've always been jealous of the solopreneur, the guy who just has to worry about himself, right? I just couldn't figure out how to make enough money by myself. like you can with an employee. So when you're talking about payroll, labor, the accountability time frame, employee management, kind of where all the emotions can run high and things can go crazy, things can get cheated, money can be stolen. You have the governments that are always on top of you, and you got to keep up with all of that. You got record retention, like you said, all of those things. These are very, very difficult things to manage for the average person. And I've always said, and I've not found it yet. I don't know your product intimately, so maybe that's the answer there. But someone who brought all of those pieces together, including HR, and simplified it. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners with employees would love to see. We keep thinking with AI, someone's going to come up with a product so good that it's going to take 90% of that off of my plate. 90% of what is the most difficult part of business, as far as I'm concerned, which is having employees and the management and the bureaucracy and all of the things that go into having employees. Are we anywhere near soup to nuts, start to finish management of bringing employees in, training employees, time frame, all the way through to he needs to be fired, he quit, paperwork, all of those things? Are we anywhere near getting to a point where this is largely automated for us?
If we look at the enterprise 1,000+ employees, they will typically have, they call them hire to fire suites, and they cover a lot of the bases, but it's not a complete automated system, right? I mean, they're approaching it, but they've also been approaching it for the last 10 years. So
right.
I can't say that they're any closer, but I would say that at some point we will end up with, as we continue to build software, whether it's us or somebody else, you will end up near that. But I don't think you'll ever end up with a system that encompasses everything, simply because change, right? Things change like so rapidly, whether it's different processes in your company, the way that regulations on hiring or firing or just employment, things change so much that I don't see where one system, a CAN system at least, could ever encapsulate everything. I could be wrong, but our goal is to take the core pieces that, and this should be, a good advice for any entrepreneur. Maybe you're not in our business, but figure this out for your customers or your, ICP, is figure out the core things that they need and build those really good. Yes, you're going to have gaps, you're going to have missing pieces, but if you can take 5 out of the 6 pain points out of a process, you've got a product, you've got something somebody will buy. If you could take 3 out of 6, somebody will buy it. But it's really, relieving that pain. As far as like a full system, I haven't seen one. And I go to all the big shows, and there's still huge gaps. I talk to customers, I talk to small customers, big customers. They all have the same basic complaints they had 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss opportunities because they're always chasing these flashy ideas. To your point, find pain points for customers and fix them. And I sign off my podcast with opportunities are everywhere. You got to go get them, because I hate the world that says do what you love and make sure you're, spend a day doing what you love and you'll never work a day in your life and all of that. I say, yeah, but if you want success, if you want to try out, make something of yourself, I've never made $1. I've done almost $500 million in revenue. Not a single one of those dollars did I ever make, Dean, doing something that I love. Right now, I'm passionate about my work because I want to provide for my family and my wife and all of those things, and my employees, and some have worked for me now for 25, 30 years. But again, I'm passionate about, I take my money that I've earned from the things that I can sell at a profit, and I go do the things that I'm truly passionate about. And so I'm not one of these guys that says do what you love. And a lot of entrepreneurs chase these flashy ideas rather than trying to answer, like you said, find some pain points that customers have. And I think too many founders overlook that kind of boring but necessary business, not unlike what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, you have a really good point, and I have maybe an interesting spin I could give on that.
Please.
Even take like our product, time tracking, payroll. We do like HR stuff, right? Is that super sexy? Is that super exciting. No, it serves a business purpose, but I love doing it. I love working. I love building product for people and solving their problems. I love working with my team and solving big problems. So my motto in a lot of ways is learn to love what you're doing. We genuinely have a great time building product and serving customers. So I think there's another way to look at things. If you kind of look at whatever it is that you're selling as, the product to the customer, and you back away from that a little bit and you look at it more holistically and you just really look at it as a product and you look at your team, I think there's a way that any entrepreneur could really learn to just appreciate their job and appreciate it and love it and have a passion for it. And then like I say my work is play, and it has been for 20 years. Is it exactly what I would choose to do every single day? I mean, I might choose to do something more recreational, but this serves so many people. 27 people at our office are, we provide for them. Like you were saying, they have homes and families, and I have a home and a family and children, but it's like that drive is what allows me to learn to love what I'm doing. And I love it now. It's just the way it is.
I think that's a good way to put it. I won't disagree with that. And I love a good disagreement, by the way. So if you don't agree with anything I say, please jump in. But I don't disagree with it. You can learn to love it. I think that I call myself, I'm a caveman. I mean, I'm a kid from the streets, right? I come from abject poverty. And so when I had my first son at 28 years old, it lit a fire in me that I did not understand, that I had to go out and I had to murder the world, man. This kid was not going to go to the streets. He was going to have a life I didn't have. I've been married for almost 30 years now. I see my kids. I talk to my kids regularly. I'm on vacation with one of my kids now. I'm on vacation with other parts of my family right now. And so it's a caveman mentality for me in that, you want the best cave, a good safe cave, and you put them in the back of it with the fire in between them and the cave going out. So there's one way in, one way out, so they can be protected. And then someone's got to go out in the tall grass, right, and try not to get eaten, and walk in the forest and try not to get hit over the head and knock a pterodactyl over the head and drag it back to the cave and feed the family, because in that cave, that's my passion. So whatever my love has to be, whatever, I don't like hunting pterodactyls any more than the next guy does, but that's what it takes for me to fulfill that passion. And so there is nothing more I'm driven for than hunting a pterodactyl. But I may choose, if I didn't have the children, maybe I'm gonna go hunt a rabbit, right? Maybe I'm gonna hunt something smaller, a little bit easier. But really, that's my mindset. So I think we're saying the same thing in that, and I think it's an important lesson for entrepreneurs. It's okay to learn to love what you do, to do what you do passionately. I love the game of business. I want to win across the board at whatever it is that I do. But if I could go play pool for a living, I love to play pool, I'd probably go do that, right? If I could, go find other things that I would rather do. I wish I were better at basketball and would have had an NBA career. Okay, then I would have done that. But I'm good at the half a dozen businesses that I've owned. I'm bad at, half a dozen of the businesses that I've owned also. And I just made my way that way. But all of it with passion to drag that pterodactyl back to the cave, because in that cave is everything that I live for.
100%. Yeah. And I think, everybody's different, right? But, whatever the motivation is that you find that you have to drive yourself to get to work, be productive, do amazing things, wherever you need to draw that inspiration from, you just need to find that on your own. For me, I have one way of driving my passion. For you have a different way. And I think we all share different ways as well. But, I mean, I share the family thing for sure, like 100%. I have 3 kids, my wife, they're number one.
Yeah.
But, find where it is, dig deep inside of you, figure out what it is that drives you, and then build on that and amplify that and talk about it and write it down and put it on your desk and let it just talk to you every day. And you will find that those things will actually come back, and you will find the energy from them for sure. 100%.
I love it. That's a great way of putting that. Let's go to experiences. So on your side, you've dealt with what'd you say, 18,000 businesses, 160,000 people, and
Yeah.
the pressure that brings as you have scaled from just a few employees to 27 employees. And I want to stop and again, we're inundated with social media. 27 employees is a lot of responsibility. That's not, people see companies with 1 million employees and they lose track that's not the normal, that's not the average. And so 27 employees is a nice scaled business. As you've gone from 1 or 2, probably just yourself, maybe your wife, I'm guessing something along those lines, to the point where you are now at 27, and you've gone from few customers to 18,000 businesses. At what point through that process, from 0 to where you are today, what was your biggest pain point? Did you have a point where you're like, okay, I got to start looking at this differently, or I got to do something different as you scale?
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest challenge, and I think a lot of solopreneurs will deal with the same thing, is I am a people person, natural leader. People told me that since I was late teens. Excuse me. I was really focused on just trying to do things myself, because I knew I could execute extremely fast. I could get things done and I could get things out in hours or a day. I didn't want to rely on people. But when I came to the conclusion that, if we want to scale this, I really need a team. You can only go so far by yourself. Actually, a quote which has become one of my most recent quotes: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And
Yeah.
so my advice would be that if you're that solopreneur, you're just there by yourself, if you are a people person, that's great. If you are, more on the introverted side, spend a little time learning how to work with people, but then building up your leadership skills and understanding how to lead people, because leading yourself is completely different than leading a team. And it doesn't matter if it's a team of 1 or 2 or if it's a team of 27. It's a whole different skill set. So, it's really understanding people and also recognizing that people are all individuals and you can't treat them all the same, and that certain people are gifted in certain ways, and certain people are struggle in certain ways. And to get a really good understanding of the people that you're looking to bring on, I always say hire slow, fire fast as well. But in order to scale, in
Yes.
order to build that team, you have to learn how to lead a team. And that's a whole different skill set than probably anybody's ever taught you. They do not teach that in class. Colleges try to teach that, but it's not the same. You only learn it, on the streets. So in the business streets, in the real world. If had MBAs come, work with us and, they're leadership experts. Nope. The ones who are the leadership experts are the ones that have been doing it for 10 years, that have no school. It's just the way it is. So learn to be a good leader. That's the best advice I would give.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think that's really well. In particular, myself also, many an MBA has come through with no context at all for what the world looks like. We'll just say at the level that I was at, and probably at the level that you were at. With On the Clock, obviously, a lot of entrepreneurs. You're working with a lot of businesses. What is the one thing that On the Clock has seen that most entrepreneurs are doing that they could do better, or could do or could improve on, or that On the Clock brings to bear that helps them out? Is there one thing that you go, yeah,
So
Jerry, that's
ironically,
easy?
it's what
This
you're
number
just
of the
talking
businesses
about.
always do this incorrectly.
So one of the things that we have recognized, and I have made really good notes on over the years, is the businesses we serve are very much like myself, or maybe you. They're small businesses. They started with an entrepreneur that was on his own or her own, built a small team. Maybe they now got 10, 20, 30 people. But a lot of times, as I'm talking to these business owners or the people that are running the company, they don't have the people skills. They are the D boss personality types. They don't know how to work with the individuals that their team. So one of the things that we're looking to do, even with our product, is really teach people, teach these entrepreneurs, teach these business owners how to be better leaders, how to build a culture, how to build how to have near zero turnover with your employees. And all of these things turn back to really actual, you can feel them in business results, less turnover, right? I mean, 30% turnover,
Right.
you got 10 people, that's 3 to 4 people leaving a year. That is not good. But, through proper leadership and management techniques, which we're trying to teach our people, we have basically zero turnover here. World-class ENPS, 4.9 Glassdoor, but that is built. So that's what we're trying to teach our customers as well. So ironically, it's the same thing we were just talking about.
Yeah. I've always said it. I like that a lot because I've always said that to entrepreneurs I teach, there is no emotion in business. So you could be emotional about your business, but making decisions emotionally is a killer, right? Because again, popular culture teaches us that motorcycles get built and cars get put together and the bosses throw wrenches at each other and the camera follows them as they go out a door and the door gets slammed and everyone's screaming and the chef is throwing eggs at people. And I go, well, who in the hell would work for these people? I don't know any environment like that. And I don't know why anybody would stay around and work like that. But pop culture has it such that the broader culture thinks that's what being an entrepreneur is. Guys my age, your age, we grew up, they watch the NFL, they watch baseball and they're kicking dirt on the umpire, or Bobby Knight's throwing a chair across the gym floor, right? And that's how you react. And I go, no, that's a very small, insignificant subset of society gets to act like that in sports, maybe entertainment. But in the real world, calm, cool, collected, keeping your head, on your shoulders about yourself is the difference between, the business closing and the business succeeding literally by trying to control those emotions. And a good leader is the one. My mother gave me some advice. I've said this a million times. When I was 13, 14 years old, she said, I was crying about something, whining about something. And she said, you're the rock that everyone crashes against. That's your least, that's who you're going to be in life. And she could not have been more prescient in that, in that statement than probably anything I ever heard, because as an entrepreneur, you got to be the rock that everyone crashes against, even when you don't feel like it.
That is 100% true. We actually just went through a few incidences very similar to that. So it doesn't mean we can't feel like we want to overreact and do crazy things and pull a meeting together after I get a bad piece of information and scare everybody. It's okay to feel that stuff, but you just can't do it. We all feel, you have emotions, I have emotions, everybody has emotions, but it's the ability to control your emotions and to be that rock that you're talking about, and because we have to be that rock, because everybody else in the company can be freaking out, but the CEO, the owner, whoever's running it, they need to be stable, calm, decision, non-emotional. That is 100%. You are very much correct there. And if you don't got
Something else,
work on that too.
So there's between success and failure in many. There's no guaranteed success, but there's guaranteed failure. I can tell you that. Something else you said, I belonged to a peer group for years and years. I just started this new one, the Kronos group, which is my new peer-to-peer group for business owners doing 7 figures or more. And one of the things in that peer group that you said this a minute ago, that came up all of the time, and I want to ask you to kind of expand on a little bit. After 20, 25 years in that group, the number of conversations with 8 to 10 other entrepreneurs that had anywhere from 10, 15, 20 employees all the way up to hundreds of employees, the number one item, if I was to say over 20, 25 years, that we spent inordinate amount of time talking about was fire fast.
Yeah.
How important. So with my experience, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. Tell us about why firing fast is so important.
Yeah. So, and I've learned this over years. Let's put it that way.
Dude,
by no means an expert in it, but
just to be clear, I've fired family. I fired people 2-3 times. I'm so stupid that I brought it back and I wanted to do it 3 times because once wasn't enough. So I'm, fire fast, but still continue to make the same mistake.
I remember, this is a long time ago. This was probably 15 years, 20 years ago. I don't know what it was, but, I had a person that was working with me, and I just knew it wasn't right. I could tell. And I said in my mind if this happens, we're going to have to part ways. Well, and that happened. okay, well, if this happens, I'm going to part ways. Okay. Well, I'm being nice, right? I'm
Right.
trying to, hopefully this person will come back up. So I had an older business friend of mine. And I asked, I said, when should I let this person go? And he said, the very first moment that you genuinely think that you might have to do it, you should like very, very, very seriously considering doing it within days, if not a week. And I didn't necessarily listen right away, but over time I learned that if you know it, you're just delaying the inevitable. And you're, in a lot of ways, you're not being honest with that person, because you're giving signals that whatever it is that they're doing is okay or is right, or that they're in line with the company. And that maybe you think that they might fall back in line. So you're doing a disservice to the person, but the bigger thing is you're doing a disservice to you and your company. And what about the rest
Right.
of the team? I mean, you have,
Yes.
let's say you got 20 people and you got one or two that are, whatever, they're doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, or they're not producing or whatever. They're looking at you as the leader, and everybody knows that those two people are slacking off or they're not aligned or whatever. So they're looking at you saying, how much of a rock is this leader? Why is he or she letting this happen? So it's the business, it's the leader, the owner's reputation. There's so many things that if you don't fire fast enough, that it builds up and it creates a toxic environment, and it really dilutes you as a leader.
Yeah, and it just quickly becomes a cancer that metastasizes, and then it gets harder and harder to get rid of in many ways. I'm reminded of the story, I've told this before. Years and years ago, I had a lady that was working for me as a dispatcher, and we really liked her, and she was kind of down on her luck and came to work for us and had a child and was struggling, and we were trying to get her to do the job, and she just ultimately, I tried to shoehorn her in out of probably more sympathy than capability. And it clearly didn't work. And I waited way too long to fire her. And ultimately I did fire her, and it was all emotional, and she was crying and stormed out and all the rest of it. And I'm sitting in my office about 5 years later, and she comes in the door. And Angie was her name. I hadn't seen her in 5 years. And I was like, what are you doing? And she came in, sat down with me, and she said, I had to come back. I live in the Midwest now, back outside of Chicago. I'm dispatching for a large trucking firm, nothing like what I was doing for you. I hated you when you fired me, but the job I have now is 10 times better than the job I had with you. I'm doing 1,000 times better than I ever could have imagined. And I got over hating you within a couple of months, and then realized you were right. And I had to come back, and I wanted to tell you that you firing me was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was like, from then on, I've met, this has been years ago, and I just kind of tried to remember that whenever it comes to those tough situations, is sometimes it's better for everybody. Short term, maybe not. Long term.
100%. You are very correct. It is, and sometimes that person just needs that wake up call, right?
Yeah.
And, you're the one that needs to do it. And again, it goes back to what you said, 10 or 15 minutes ago, is that you can't bring emotion into this.
That's
it's
right.
Like every time that I've ever delayed things, it's because, oh, they're a nice guy. Oh, they have a family, they're down on their luck, but that doesn't count. That doesn't work. That's emotions.
Right.
You're disservicing your business, yourself, and that person. So, yeah.
You, just in the couple of minutes we have left, I want to give you an opportunity. In doing my research on you, you talk openly about your faith and family and, the world at large. And that's a like I said, I'm coming up, 29 years married here in August. So a couple of months. When I moved to Tennessee 6 years ago, my family in their 20s, my 3 kids all came with me. I have 2 sons in the military, and my daughter's here on vacation with me. So family, like I said, I have nephews and nieces and brother and sister-in-law that are here with me. Family is really important to us. And so faith and family in particular. So whenever someone is willing to talk about that, I'm happy to, in the couple of minutes that we have left, to give you an opportunity to just tell us how important that is to you, and how does that play a part in the entrepreneurial world at large.
Yeah, so I am a born-again Christian, faithful follower of Jesus Christ. I could say I go to church every Sunday and all that, and I do, of course, but that's not what defines me as a Christian man. So Every decision that I make, whether it's business or personal, it doesn't matter. It is all guided by my faith. I know what to do. I'm a Christian. I'm not perfect. I sometimes make mistakes. When I do make mistakes, I do my absolute best to fix them and to get back on track. But the reality is that, my faith in God, in Jesus Christ, is what guides pretty much every major decision that I make. Every major decision goes through prayer, goes through time thinking alone with God. And yeah, so it's kind of a big deal. I'm really glad you asked that question. I wasn't prepared for it, but that's okay.
Good. Yeah, I think that whenever I ask that question, you are not alone, because your response there at the end is what I typically get. And so I'll tell you what I always say is, that's too bad. We should spend more time talking about this. More podcast hosts should ask questions like this, because I think that you mean, Dean, that you're not some rapacious capitalist that's just out to destroy the world and take advantage of everybody around you whenever the opportunity presents itself? Is that what you're trying to tell me? You live by some sort of standards?
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
That's the truth.
Yes.
That's me. That's who I am.
We should be talking more about this, not less. Okay, quick speed round. I like to do this at the end. Just give me 1, 2, 3, 4 words. Not too many quick off the top of your head. Just like to see where some of these come real quick here. Biggest mistake you made early in business?
Biggest mistake I made was not bringing on my team or a team early enough.
Tried to do it by yourself longer.
Trying to do it by myself. Yep.
One business skill every young entrepreneur should learn first.
Business skill. I would say the first business skill they should learn is how to communicate with either their customers or potential customers and learn what their pain points are.
Hardest part of leadership that no one talks about.
Hardest part of leadership. I'm going to say that it's keeping your emotions out. What we just talked about. It's very hard. Yeah,
that's a good one. My go-to is always loneliness.
It is very lonely up top. That is a hard one too. I would give that a good kind of rating for the top. Yeah, it is very lonely here.
Yeah, I agree. I like both of those. What's one thing you believe about business most people disagree with?
I would say the thing that most people disagree with is that business is, most businesses serve for profit, but you should be serving for people.
I like, because one,
I tried to keep
I always say,
but it didn't work out.
No, Dean, I think that's perfect though. And I think because I always say that money follows, it does not lead.
Yeah, I say money or profit is an indicator of success.
Yes, right.
100%.
And last one, and I think I know the answer here, but I'm going to let you say it either way. What keeps you motivated? You built a successful company. Life continues to go on. What keeps you motivated after 20 years?
It's passion for people. It's our number one value.
Yeah.
Both our people and customers.
Yeah, I love it. I appreciate the balance, man. This is a great conversation today. We kind of covered everything in business and leadership and faith and family and perspective. And so much of that stuff matters. I really appreciate you coming on. It was a great conversation. How do people get a hold of you if they want to reach out, if they want to interact with you, if they want to talk to you about On the Clock? What's the best way to get to you?
Yeah, I would say the best way is LinkedIn. A lot of connections come through there. So just look me up, Dean Mathews, 1T. And I just want to follow up too. So I've been following the Kronos Group podcast here recently since I learned about you guys. And this really is an amazing place. So if you're not a subscriber, click that button, subscribe. Good stuff here for all you young entrepreneurs.
Let's see. $25 check in the mail to Dean as promised for dropping the nice words to me.
Have me a coffee when you're in Detroit, or when I'm in Tennessee, I'll come see
Nashville.
you.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And again, go to ontheclock.com. Also, we should say that to see if you are an entrepreneur and this is something that you are looking for, which I think everybody is, because again, employees and everything that you're doing is just the Lord's work. Ontheclock.com. Go check Dean out there. Dean, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much again. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.